Bartenders of Reddit, what is the coolest thing you've witnessed a drunk person do at a bar? A drunk regular accidentally takes another drunk regular's purse home. She calls him to bring the purse back, they were friends. Which he does while eating an ice cream cone. She rhetorically asked where her ice cream was. He proceeds to go to the gas station across the street and comes back with a whole grocery bag full of ice cream cones, and not only gives one to her, but to every customer at the bar and multiple to us bartenders. There was something so adorable about a room full of adults elated to have one giant, spontaneous ice cream party. Did he buy the bar a round of ice cream cones with money from her purse? Or his? With his money, haha. The ice cream was intended to be an apology for accidentally taking the purse. Some guy said to me after I just served him, "Watch my beer, I'm going out for a cigarette." He then threw the cigarette in the air and caught it in his mouth and walked outside like nothing had happened. I had a buddy that was a pro at this. He was in the Navy and had nothing but time to practice it while at sea. I don't know if cool is the best description, but I cut a very drunk guy off one night but allowed him to sit at the bar to sober up a bit. After a couple of club sodas, he stumbles over to the jukebox to play some music. It was an old jukebox that required you to push 4 digits to play a song. Well, this guy makes his selection, and when he pushed the 4th digit he pushes himself backwards and falls flat on his back, making a huge scene. Just as I start to make my way over to help his drum cause up, his song starts playing. It's I Fall to Pieces by Patsy Cline. Perfect. As a bartender, the coolest thing I have ever seen a drunk person do is get cut off from being overserved and be totally respectful about. An old regular of mine used to walk to the bar, see, drink 9 or 10 Jack and Cokes. He never caused problems. Would just get a bit sloppy. Every time you told he was done we would smile, thank me and pay and go. That was ducking cool. Duck if only all of them were like that. Ex-bartender assistant here. Worked in one of the bigger country bars in Canada. I've seen a fair bit of stupid shit, but the best would have to be a shorter guy, 5 feet 2-ish, step in when a buddy was about to get the sheet kicked out of him by another drunk guy, over 6 feet 0 and reasonably built. The shorter guy steps in, blocks the angry drunk, who promptly backhands the shorter guy to the ground. Normally security would have stepped in by now, but it was a busy night and they hadn't seen the altercation. Shorter guy stands back up, dusts himself off and does what I can only describe as a jumping jackhammer punch to the drunk guy's face. Basically he jumped up and rode the guy down, feeding him what looked to be 5-6 punches. Guy was done before he hit the ground. Broken nose. The works. Unfortunately both were kicked out due to fighting, but I fought for the shorter guy to stay. Guy asked me what my biggest tip was, then said he'd triple it. Made $500 in 4 hours. A group of guys were being loud and obnoxious assholes in a very full bar while playing pool and pumping tons of money into the touch tunes, playing their Hoobastank or whatever the duck they were playing. Being completely disruptive and intimidating anyone trying to use the jukebox. This one random guy sits at the bar right in front of me with his girlfriend and says, "Want to see something funny?" Pulls up the Touch Tunes app and starts playing a bunch of random songs and get queued to the front of the list. Almost everyone in the bar started laughing at the group when Mariah Carey's Christmas album started playing while the bros were yelling at each other to figure out who played the song. Went on for about an hour until they left. Oh, random guy. I wish there were more people like you out there. Sorry, not a bartender. I was a regular poker player at a local establishment. The place was mostly whiskey and cigars, and had an older crowd. I was around 22, but liked the atmosphere, and beating drunk old dudes at poker was what paid my way through dropping out of college. On this particular day, my dad happens to walk in and sit down at the poker table. I didn't know why he was there. He isn't a card player and was never much of a drinker. On this night, he was pretty plastered. He orders another drink and manages to slap down some money for poker chips. I was doing my best to explain the finer points of No Limit Texas Hold'em to him. when the action comes to him. Without even looking at his cards, he tosses a handful of chips onto the table, a decent chunk of change. Someone calls. My dad has an ace high flush. Cashes in his chips. Calls himself a cab home and by the table a round of drinks. This strange kid always came in on Wednesdays around 10 p.m. Got a pint of Guinness. Drank it. Tipped $10 plus the price. Said thank you and left. I always tried to strike up conversation and he wasn't rude, but I could tell he didn't want to. I always thought he was so cool in an enigmatic way. Not a bartender, but I watched a man eat 40 McNuggets over a 100 kuna, $15 bet. 40 McNuggets cost more than 100 kuna. Edit, this man is my friend from Herzegovina. Followed a guy down a flight of stairs. He could hardly walk. While going down the stairs he did a complete 360 and never missed a step. I tried it sober and almost held myself. Not a bartender, but my one friend has a gyroscope for a hand. No matter what, he cannot spill his drink. I've seen the kid fall downstairs or trip and fall on the ground and not spill a drop. It's crazy. Typical not a bartender, but I was once at a bar in my hometown on Halloween night. Everyone was in costumes. I was on the patio smoking area and one dude stood out. He was 6 feet 5 inches and dressed in full super real looking cowboy gear, Stetson hat, jeans, duster, boots with spurs. Act. Just standing in the corner smoking cigarettes by himself all night. So, a bunch of people are on the patio smoking and drinking and I notice a woman, dressed as a slutty minion or something equally silly, with a cigarette in her mouth. Digging through her purse looking for a lighter. Out of duck I'm nowhere cowboyed and swoops and flicks open a Zippo. Lights a cigarette. Tips his hat and says mom and goes back to his corner without another word. It was the coolest goddamn thing I've ever seen. Not a bartender but a bouncer. The coolest thing I've ever seen someone do at a bar is show up, drink like an adult and have a good time and get home safely without causing any problems. Responsibility is cool. I saw a guy drink at least 10 shots one night while I was dishwashing. Then went outside and probably smoke a joint. He smelled pretty dank when he came back and called a cab. Came back early the next morning and left a tip for leaving his car. The weird thing is that he was just one of the biggest dicks there that night. Fighting over the jukebox and being allowed unfunny big dick. The only guy I've seen to be so responsible. We have live music Friday and Saturday nights. One night we have a small crowd for the solo guitar player, so this group of 5 dudes walking around on a bachelor party comes in and asks for $50 in ones from me after one round of drinks. Showers the guitar player in said $1 bills, then tips me out, then they all leave. Not a bartender, but at some point my dad and his friend were at a bar and this midget walks up to the bar and orders a drink. This dude is really ducking short. Like 4 feet or something. When the bartender gives him his drink he thanks him. He tosses some cash up on the counter and then the rest of the cost of drink in coins. Only he flips the coins up so when they land on the counter they're spinning. Finally, he steps up to the counter with a few quarters in between his fingers. Jumps up and slaps his hand on the counter and the quarters hop perfectly into the tip jar. Then the dude just turns and walks away. My dad and his friend just sat there staring at each other. That guy is probably the smoothest methodica alive. Fairly tame. But here goes. The restaurant I work at is mostly windows and lies on a main street in between other college dive type bars. Pub crawls are a common thing around these parts and we are often entertained at the parade of drunks wandering from one spot to another. We are a bit higher end so we do not attract those looking for cheap thrills. Anyway, one normal night I have a party of 3 ladies in the 50-70 range having a nice dinner with a spot of wine and enjoying their night. From my vantage at the bar, I watch as a group of 5 or 6 21ish aged males walking past the front windows. They weren't the usual drunks, punks, or co-eds, and had they not been so clean cut, what happened next wouldn't have surprised me that much. When the group reached the spot in the window next to where the ladies sat, One of the fellows turns to his left and licks the window right next to this one lady's face. It happened all of a sudden and the look on her face was ducking priceless. All of us were in shock and it took everything in me not to die of laughter. I did the obligatory rush to the door and shake my fist at those darn kids. But it is rather pointless when pretty much everybody in the place, including the ladies, is cracking up. I used to work at a golf club. Well, the horn sounded for all the golfers to come in because a storm was coming through. So I've got all these guys in the men's grill drinking and having a good time when the power cuts out. Inky darkness. Can't see a thing. The generators turn on after 20 seconds or so. And one of the guys is standing on his chair. With his pants down at his ankles and is pulling off his shirt. He gets it off. Looks around at the room all staring at him. Waits a beat and says, "Oh, we're not doing this." The room erupted. It was just perfect. I've told this story before but here we go again. Maybe not coolest but definitely most impressive. A couple were outside in the smoking area trying to duck but he couldn't get it and because of the angle, she was facing towards him and those of you who've tried it against a wall like this know it's not easy. So rather than the chick bending over, she decides to, with her back against the wall still, Spider-Man up the corner of it with her legs spread apart and gets her pussy in the guy's face and he goes to town on her eating her out. This only worked because of the inner wall in the smoking area is made of planks of wood making a sort of ladder. I was in the office at the time and me and a couple others were just watching this on the CCTV camera absolutely gobsmacked. I think the best part was a bloke on his own sat in the corner. And when he noticed his phone slowly raised and I assume he started recording the whole ordeal. Not a bartender but best bar story. I was on the road for work in Texas. Went into a local bar around the block from my hotel. I sit down. Order my drink. And as the female bartender said sit down before me, I see her look over her shoulder. Two local scumbags were skipping out on their check and she saw them as they snuck out the side door to the bar. I asked another customer next to me, did those guys just run out on their bill? Nods all around. Apparently not the first time. After she had been gone for a couple minutes I thought I should go check on her. Catch up to the three of them a block away. Trying to be the hero. Or at least keep her from being assaulted. She has already confronted them. Knocked one out cold. And has the other in full mount and is pummeling his face in. All I could do was stand back and applaud. Walked back to her bar with her and she bought me a beer and an order of fried pickles for being kind enough to come check on her. I didn't do shit. And got a free drink and food for my effort. Thanks again Courtney. See you the next time I'm in town. Probably a week ago. I saw these two guys about to get in a fight. One was this big dude. Probably 6 feet 3 inches and 220 pounds. While the other was maybe 5 feet 9 inches and 150 pounds soaking wet. Anyways. They're about to get into it. When the small guy's buddy hops in between them and just starts screaming in this thick Canadian accent, "Do you wanna go you duck bender? I'll break your hose and neck. I've been playing puck since I was in my ma's womb." The other guy immediately backed down. Ducking classic. One time I let a group of regulars take my car to the gas station. A drunk one asked me if I needed anything and I said gas. And that dude filled the tank. Not the coolest. Possibly the grossest. I watched this very large man wobbling at the bar. Holding on as if he was gonna get thrown out of orbit. I instinctively give him some water and tell him to straighten up or he was out. Chugging the water he just grunted then started heaving. I slowly backed up and got a bouncer. I'll be damned if I'm cleaning up bath. We watched this man start barfing in his cup. We went over to escort him out and he was so committed to his sobriety he told me his bath cup was his drink then drank it. He drank a cup of bath. Straight face then told us he was sober. I admire his dedication. Guy sitting at bar. Close to closing. Stuck his hands up through his polo style shirt giving the appearance of having very short arms and started hollering he couldn't reach his drink. Still funny to me but at the Diamond place it was hilarious. Not a bartender. But the coolest thing you saw was on spring break in Mazatlan. Some beachfront bar had Mardi Gras night. Guy wanted girls' beads. I'm dancing on the bar in a drunk state watching them negotiate. Suddenly, he lifts her onto the bar, hikes up her skirt, rips her thong off and eats her out while everyone goes nuts. Absolutely wild to see that reaction. I watched a guy slam a 16-ounce glass of whiskey without stopping. It was a bet he had with his friend. Friend B bought it. If friend A could drink it, not throw it up, and not pass out, then friend A didn't have to reimburse friend B. Friend A partied all night and even had a few more drinks. And a rice bowl. Call a cab instead of driving their car. Seriously. Props to patrons who recognize when they've had too much. I honestly can't think of a single thing after 5 years. Drunk people are the worst. Maybe not the coolest, but we had a wedding party come in after their wedding and the bride and groom got into an argument around last call. She threw her wedding ring and a chair at him and they were both arrested after. That was kinda cool. I used to be a bartender at a restaurant bar that had about 60% regulars in there. One night I was bartending. This big shot guy came in after a round of golf with his buddy. I wasn't familiar with the man, but he was ordering plenty of fancy drinks. Eventually after they eat, their tab is pushing $150. This lady walks in who is a regular. We'll call her Jan. He gets all excited because he hasn't seen this lady in years apparently. Eventually he gives me the tab back and orders multiple rounds for the whole bar in hopes to impress Jan. His tab is like $650 by 9 PM, which is when we close on Sundays. Tips me $300. I was like, duck yeah. Considering he bought me a couple drinks as well and I'm a broke college kid. I worked a wedding this past summer and this one guy. He wasn't all that drunk but he was definitely tipsy. Was totally mesmerized by my speed and accuracy at making all these drinks at once. He was so blown away he yelled, "Hey, everyone should give this man $20 right now." One other guy followed through, but it was funny that he even said, "And really cool that someone actually did it, lol." I saw a drunk guy politely ask for his tab, tipped accordingly, and thanked me on his way out. I don't think I'll ever see that again. Bartending back in my college days at a local dive bar. The place was shoulder to shoulder packed and loud as hell. Out of nowhere, some kid slowly starts to stand on one of the bar stools until he has the posture of a marine. After a second or two the entire bar went dead quiet and everyone was looking at him, bar staff included. He then slowly raised a key with a massive pile of coke on it up to his nose, inhaled and threw a fist in the air. The entire bar erupted in applause. Usually if you pull a stunt like that you'll get kicked out. But something about this kid made it so goddamn funny that I floated him a few shots on the house instead.